Welcome back to Outside the Round Pen, Season 2. This is the first episode, and I am so excited to be back. I know there's been a bit of space in between Season 1 and Season 2, and actually it's super exciting because I got married, so I took a bit of a sabbatical, which is super fun, but we're back, and I cannot wait to finish out the story of Josie. We will be reviewing the footage from that same summer, so it all happened in the space of about 3 months. So we're going to be going back over that and just talking about how amazing the Lord is in every single way that he works with us and how I continued to be able to work with her for that summer. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started for this episode. Welcome to Outside the Round Pen, where we step beyond the basics of training and into the deeper lessons horses teach us about faith, leadership, and partnership with Jesus. I want you to close your eyes and imagine a wild stallion running free on the plains, the wind blowing in his hair. Seems pretty epic, and it's something that a lot of people, when they think of wild horses, they think they are genuinely free. There's no restraints on them. They're just able to enjoy life to its fullest. But is he truly free? Because now I want you to close your eyes again and picture a medieval warhorse. They've got all of the beautiful pieces of material on them, the saddle, the bridle, all of the chainmail or armor, and he's carrying a knight, or she's carrying a knight, and it looks a lot more burdened down than that first picture of a stallion running free. There is something super powerful in the imagery that I just wanted you to picture. And the reason I did so is because there's this word that I love using, but a lot of people don't have an image for it. And that word is meekness. Now, I want you to take a step back. Try to come up, I dare you, try to come up with an image beyond what I just showed you or had you picture of the word meekness. Most people aren't going to have one. If you're very biblically literate, then you might have the picture of Jesus, and that would be an accurate description because the word talks about him being meek. Now, what does that actually mean, and what on earth does that have to do with why I'm talking about Josie? I'm hoping to be able to unpack that for you in today's episode. But first, before we move on, have you come up with a picture? Yes? No? Well, I'm going to give you the definition. Meekness means power under control. And in Hebrew is a pictorial language. And so the image that goes along with the word meekness is a warhorse. It's a stallion submitted to its leader. And that is so powerful when you think about the fact that that word is one of the words that describes Jesus. And that it's not timidity, it's not being weak or just super submissive, and it comes across as this almost negative or lacking authority image. That's the complete opposite of what this word means. Meekness is power under control or harnessed under the authority. It's this raw emotion and muscle and energy all submitted, collected, and carrying something of authority and dignity into something, or, use the warhorse, then it's going to go into war. Or in just the natural image of a stallion carrying a rider, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of mass. All of that is submitted under something that's much smaller, but the unity and the synergy that comes along when that animal is submitted to that leader, that animal is able to operate under a level of freedom that they never would have been able to on their own. That being said, now you might be able to see how that's going to tie directly into the beauty and the dynamic that I started to begin to see in my relationship with Josie. Even though she's not a stallion and she's not necessarily a large horse, she still has a ton of just raw power, emotional energy, all of that is starting to be uncovered, but basically untapped. So we went through the whole process of last season looking at what it took just to get from, if you remember in episode 1, just her touching me, just to allow me in her space, to walking off her map. And for the first time in who knows how long, but a minimum of several years, I took her out of the only environment she'd known by herself and walked her into an environment she had not. Massive, massive success. So spinning off of that where we ended the last episode of season 1 is where we get to launch from in season 2, because she took all of that time to develop just the ability to trust me before she was even willing to let me lead her into an environment she had no grid for. That is the first stage of being able to see the imagery of meekness in her story, because now she is getting the option to choose if she wants to continue to submit all of that and now work on being refined in allowing her power to be submitted, to be able to carry something that is greater than herself in what feels like restrictive boundaries, but is actually something that's designed to help her grow and become something so much bigger. And again, beyond herself. So the first thing I want to do is I want to actually look at the first clip of the session that I worked with her on immediately following the last episode of season 1. So one of the biggest things that is so beautiful, and the reason I wanted to show you this clip, is we had gone from taking an hour and a half for her to even be willing to let her touch my hand. That was it. It was a massive, very emotional, and quite the ordeal. But we went from that to, as you watched just there, she walked up to me. I didn't do anything. I just walked in the gate, and she was so excited to see me, super excited to be able to do whatever I had in store, because she knows there's nothing at this point. There's so much unknown. She can't control where we're going, but she got so excited just to be able to see me. And then you can see there's a give and take. It's like a dance. There's microseconds, moments of decision where she gets to either yield to my ask or say no. And we're having a conversation without saying a word. And it's so beautiful because, again, thinking about where she's come from, she knows that I'm probably going to be taking her out of the only environment she's known for the last couple of years. And she's excited about that because she's with me. And I'm the only consistent piece. I'm the only constant. And even in that, I don't take that authority or that position that she's allowing me to be in lightly. And she knows that. And so that mutual respect, she is willing to submit all of her body size, all of her emotion, all of her energy, her power, all of her authority in and of herself to my leadership. And it's so beautiful because, as you can see, it's just precious when you're looking at an animal who, could very easily and has very easily rejected the authority of people and literally thrown them off or ran away from them, or, not necessarily aggressive, but horses can be. And she is choosing as a prey animal in that moment to let me be her leader, which is back to that word, meekness. Now, I want you to continue to watch this because this is just so fun, and it's a little side note, but this is just like the Lord, because when we're in the middle of something and it's this really serious or even exciting moment, you look at him and you get excited about this little thing, or he gets excited about this little thing, and it's just a split micro moment, but you see her, she's itchy on her chin, and I just offered, she got it, and I just get her right on her chin, and she starts scratching, and she's so happy, and then she's done. And I'm like, okay. And it's not this big thing, but it's these, again, it's all of these micro moments that build up to where you see here walking her outside of that environment and her being like, cool, what's this adventure going to be like now? It feels in that clip, it almost feels nonchalant because it's like this idea of, oh my gosh, it's so simple. It doesn't look like that's a big deal, but I'm showing you this because she literally chose to be able to trust me in all of those moments leading up to that day. And then the partnership piece was feeding into her purpose of going, wait a minute, I get to love and be loved by this person, and I'm respected by them. This person, I know me, right? I know Rachel's not going to take advantage of my insecurity or take advantage of my excitedness or little things. She's not going to abuse the power that she has or the authority that she has over me. I feel like I'm a partner, but she is ultimately the one that I'm going to submit to and follow. And when we do that with the Lord, it really is that simple. It feels like these really big things when he's inviting us, again, going off of what I said in the end of the last episode of season 1, he invites us to walk off our map. That is incredibly intimidating. But when you have all of this history and you focus on the history of him blessing and being faithful to you, that piece feeds into your perspective of looking at the future when you're able to look at him and go, well, you've been faithful in all of these tiny or big or both ways. So I know no matter where I'm going, it's an adventure that you're going to support and provide and guide me in. So I'm going to submit all of my authority and all of my power to control or attempt to control, because we really don't have much control over anything except for us. I'm going to submit all of that, and I'm going to let you be the one that carries the weight of all of the uncertainty, and I'm just going to enjoy the ride. And that's what it looks like. This is a perfect example of her just stepping into something unknown. She has no security in the natural of there going to be any kind of safety. And for horses, safety is massive. They need 3 things. They need shelter, they need food and water, and they need play and safety. If they have that, their life is set. If they don't, it's out of balance, and now they're in chaos. So the fact that she is willing to set that aside and look so calm walking out of an environment, again, keep in mind, this is only the second time she has ever walked out of that paddock with someone in years. That's huge. And for her to be so chill and so like enjoying the moment and just seeming like I've been doing this my whole life. That's because she has chosen to trust my leadership and is submitted to my authority in this. And this just is beautiful. So what's so exciting about this though, is that's not where we stop. We go ahead and we move into the round pen, and I'm going to show you the next piece. This is that she's in a new environment, even though she's been there once before. She's in a new environment because it's a new day. And every single time that a horse, you're working with them, you want them to be able to feel secure in their relationship with you because they choose a leader every single day in the natural. We do that with the Lord too, because every single area of a heart is going to be different in whether or not we've submitted that to him. And he's going to need to work on showing himself faithful there again, even though he has been in all these other areas. And so with this, I just want you to watch how special it is, because there's again, that dance I was talking about, there's a back and forth, and she's just able to respond to me, but I'm inviting her to reconnect with me in a new environment. This is a new area. We were connected. She came up to me. We were all good to go in her paddock. We walked. We were connected there. Now we're in my round pen, and I'm inviting her. And this moment right here where she turns to respond to me, that's not something that just happens. That is her making a conscious choice to go, oh, gotcha. You're asking this of me. Even though this is a very new environment, this isn't the same as where we've done it before. I know what you're asking, and I'm going to respond positively to that. Let me be your partner because I don't know what's up, but you do, and I want to follow you. So she does this, and it's so beautiful to watch because she is willing to step into this environment. And again, that word, meekness, right? She is willing to submit herself into the process of being harnessed to allow my leadership to be what ultimately guides her. And so I'm going to continue to let this play, but she allows me to work with her and massage her and just, again, playing these simple games, meeting her physical needs, meeting her little emotional needs, reminding her, hey, I'm good. We're good. We are, even though in a different environment, I am the same as I was over here, right? And if you know the scriptures or have been around church, that sounds pretty familiar to a verse that we know. And that's where God says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the same in this area of your life as he is in this area of your life. In finances as he is in health. In relationships as he is in your physical housing needs or your job. Or he is your provision and he is the same as he was yesterday, as he is in this area of your life, as he is in this area of your family's needs. He is the same across the board. He does not change. We do. We have a tendency to forget a lot. And this is a perfect example of it doesn't take much for us to need him to reassure us of the sameness of who he is in a different area of our life. For Josie, it's a practical training thing, but it's reminding her, I have not changed. My way of communicating has not changed. My way of reading you has not changed. I know that you need me to be firm in this area or be secure in this area, so I'm going to show up that way. That's what a good leader does. I'm not going to bulldoze over her boundaries. I'm not going to bulldoze over her needs just because I have an agenda. Now, what you can see here is I've now brought her over to something that she has not seen, if ever, at least not recently. All of her past experience with riders has not been good that we are aware of, including bucking, throwing, all that sort of stuff. If you remember, at the end of episode 8, I was able to get a saddle and saddle pad on her. That was she was being so receptive to that new environment. All I wanted to do was see what she would do to respond to them. She took them like a champ. I just set them on her and then we were good to go. From there, this time I wanted to see what she would do if I actually started to harness her. The word that we've been talking about this episode, submitting and power under control, or raw power harnessed to be able to carry a rider, or to be able to carry an anointing, or to be able to carry the presence of God into a situation that's unknown, but trusting him to lead you well, right? All of that plays in together because it was an invitation for her to see and me to see how she would respond to what seems like restriction, what seems like entrapment, and is actually just a step towards her being able to carry a rider and her being able to step into a destiny that she's not able or capable of doing on her own. She has to have human intervention to be able to carry a human. They're not naturally going to just accept a human, and that is part of the raw nature of what they are. But when they're able to carry and they're able to receive that, it grows their ability to trust, and they get to experience things they never would have just as a horse. The world defines power as ultimate control over others. But biblically, true power comes as a choice, right? When God created us, he didn't just brainwash us into receiving him. If he wanted that, we wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't be dealing with a fallen world, but that's not real love. And that's not what power is, because it's he is so secure in who he is as a father and who he is as a creator and who he is as a leader that he doesn't need us to be absolutely submitted to him out of obligation. That's not what he wants. That's never what he's wanted. He created us with free will to be able to choose to love him back because he is okay with the mess if we don't, when we don't. But it's so much better. It goes so much better when we do allow him in and we allow his authority to be what we carry regularly. And so a perfect example of this is when we look at the image of David, because David's power wasn't in his status as king, but it was his submission to God's plan, okay? He was called king. That was his destiny. That was where the Lord was taking him. Long before he ever saw the palace, long before there even was a palace, as far as his knowledge, he was called to become something he was not even able to touch until years down the line. It was his submission to God's plan. That's where his real authority came from. That was where the power came from, not from his outward position. The Lord called him king long before he ever was recognized by the world as a king. It wasn't from the fame. It wasn't from the riches. It wasn't from his accolades as a warrior, right? It wasn't even from him being known as a worshiper. God knew him as that when it was just him out in the fields, being faithful with what he'd been handed in that season. That's what his power came from, was his choice to be submitted to the Lord's plan for him and his purpose for him. That made no sense in the natural. And yet, to this day, King David is recognized as one of the most powerful figures of the Old Testament, and actually in the lineage of Jesus. And that's so beautiful, but it wasn't because of his naturally given power. It was because of his submission to a plan he didn't have any control over and any actual insight into until much further down the line. And speaking of Jesus being in his lineage, he's the ultimate example, right? We just talked about how meekness plays out in just the natural pieces of it, but he had the power to change the world instantly if he wanted to. He could have changed the entire course of history by not going to that cross, or by, there's so many instances, but he submitted to God's plan instead, even at the detriment of his flesh. He did not feel like it. It felt like he was losing everything, right? You look at when he's in the garden and he is sweating blood because he is in so much agony, not wanting to, his flesh not wanting to go and do what he's about to do. But that was what the Lord had as his plan. And if he hadn't have, we would not be here. We would not be talking about this, because he is the only reason that we even have a choice, is because Jesus was willing to sacrifice that. He unlocked his purpose because he was willing to set his plans aside, submit all of his raw authority, all of his power, and be harnessed by the purpose that the Lord had in store for him, which was to save all of humanity. And that, right, salvation, that is the biggest thing. And that's why he's called meek, is because he had so much power. He had so much authority that he denied it to be able to save us. That is what meekness looks like. Now, I'm not saying Josie is anywhere near that level of meek, but I am saying it's a beautiful image of what it can look like in a tangible way for us to see the process of her going through this raw transformation from unharnessed power to harnessed and being able to carry something that is so much bigger than her. Matthew 6:24 talks about no one can serve two masters. We either submit to God's purpose or the world's idea of freedom, but we cannot submit to both. Josie demonstrates a perfect example of that kind of wrestling. These moments, she has a choice, and you can see it very visibly that she is willing in a couple instances, she would much rather listen to her intuition that this is scary, this is not something I want to be doing, but it's a wrestling. You can watch it, and she is taking this moment where she goes back and forth, and so she'll resist or put up a little bit of opposition and communicate that she's not secure in what I'm asking her to do, and then go, oh wait, no, but I can trust her, but this is scary. But I can trust her, but this is, do I? And it's this back and forth, and you watch as she's going through this thought process. Now, for her, it doesn't necessarily mean her feet are moving, right? Physically, she doesn't necessarily move her feet, but it's a mental game of going, do I listen? Do I stand? Do I yield? Or do I run away? Do I put up a fight? And I'm testing this. Again, I have not asked her. I've got the saddle on her. She's fine with carrying it and not moving. But now it's the convincing her that she is capable of moving while being in restriction. Because when you have never had healthy boundaries before, it's going to feel like you're in a cage and you're incapable of functioning. And for horses who have not carried or are being taught, retaught, whatever, to carry a saddle, that often means you have to teach them that they can move, literally, that they can walk again while being strapped in with a saddle, while being harnessed. And so this process of convincing her, hey, you are capable of functioning the exact same way you were just 4 minutes ago around the round pen. Just all that's changed is I've put something on your back, and that's it. You're fine. But it's a conversation, and she has to choose to yield to that. And so this process of her being submitted to my requests and to my moments of asking her to do something, I want to get excited when I see her do it well. I want to get excited when she has a win, because again, going back to those micro moments, those little split seconds where I reward where I can and I honor the try, that is so important in building consistently building trust with her, again, in a new area, in a new environment. Even though this is not necessarily new, in this moment it is. And so it's the preparation. As you can see, obviously, I'm not going to put someone on a horse that's never carried a saddle before, that's never ridden before. Or I'm not going to put someone on the back of a horse bareback, right? So without a saddle, who the horse, we don't know if she's capable of holding someone safely. And with her, we knew that there was a history of her not holding people safely. And so wanting to have her take these moments to realize she's capable of moving, which she got very quickly, but then also asking her and inviting her to the next phase. Now, there's very obviously a few moments where all that power and energy and excitement shows up, because she is still, again, wrestling with the idea of submitting to being harnessed, to being within healthy boundaries, because nothing about the saddle is hurting her. Of all of the things I could strap to her back, it is probably one of the easiest things for her to carry. She's not carrying a person, because she's not I would not be setting her up for success if I were to put a person on her back at this stage. But I am preparing her to. And so that goes back to what we were just talking about, where it's a process of, you don't just get thrown into healthy boundaries and expected to succeed immediately if you've never had them before. You're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel like it's all kinds of wrong. And it's a steady, consistent leader who is going to take you step by step through that process of realizing that you can be submitted and completely relaxed, like she was when we first started the video. She was completely relaxed with that step. This is the exact same thing, the same process that got us to that first moment of walking out her gate, but it's now taking it to a step further of going, awesome, you were designed for something greater. I am going to invite you into this, and I know you trust me in these other areas. Can you focus on the fact that I've been faithful here in this new stage here? Because I have something that you can't see in store, and it's so good. Just like Josie, our relationship with God requires us to submit and to be willing to trust him in an environment where it does not make sense or it doesn't feel comfortable. But if you are able to choose to focus on all of the moments he's been faithful leading up to that, then you are going to be able to release the stress and the anxiety and the fear and anticipating something new or something scary because he has been faithful in all these other ways. Let that outweigh what he is calling you into in a new season. The war horse didn't lose its power by being completely harnessed and covered in armor and carrying a knight into battle. It actually gained something that it couldn't have had on its own. It gained protection and order and destiny, right? Because it was being guided by a force that was bigger and had more knowledge than it did. And because it was submitted into that, it carried its rider safely and was also therefore delivered safely. Right? So it's so much bigger than that. Josie isn't losing her power by being harnessed or by being willing to submit to a process of becoming harnessed. She's actually gaining something. She's becoming something or being directed towards something that's so much more meaningful in her life than it ever would have been if she was never touched. The same is true for us. God doesn't ask you to submit to his plan to limit us. He doesn't ask us to submit to him just to lead us into something that's going to be scary or detrimental or abandon us in that. He is going to invite you into something so you can grow towards what he's actually designed you to be. The original purpose he placed inside of you when he thought of you and planned you before the foundation of the earth. That's what he's inviting you into in a new season, or asking you to trust him in a new area of your heart. So, challenge. I want you to ask the Lord, what areas of your life need to be harnessed? What areas of your life do you need to start to submit to him to be able to be finessed, to be invited into carrying his presence in a way that hasn't been before? That's raw, untapped power that needs to be or gets to be submitted to his leadership because he has so much greater in store for you than you could ever do by yourself. By watching Josie grow, we're reminded that our greatest power isn't in doing things our own way, but it's by being submitted to the one who can see the bigger picture. Thank you for watching. Please consider supporting our ministry, whether by giving or sharing this message with someone who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next.